It's going to be a wild and crazy week for recruiting for West Virginia Mountaineers and teams all over the country. But looking at the Mountaineers, there have been flips, there have been commitments. In this episode, we're going to take a look at two recent commitments who just verbally committed to the Mountaineers today. I'm going to give you my thoughts on those two defensive backs from the junior college ranks. We're also going to take a look in the second half of the show at the West Virginia Mountaineers win in basketball, in men's basketball, over Mercyhurst. What takeaways do I have from that performance, from that win? Let's talk about both of those in this episode right now. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top-shelf college sports news and analysis centered around the West Virginia Mountaineers and sometimes the Big 12. West Virginia had a couple players who decommitted from the program over the last couple of days. Number one, JUCO wide receiver Keon Hutchins, who I was extremely high on. I did a video about him when he committed. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link to it at the end. They also had decommitments from a couple of defensive backs as well from the high school ranks. It's very possible that those two defensive back decommitments were somewhat related to the two defensive back commitments that the Mountaineers got today from the junior college ranks. Maybe they're trading guys who will need to develop for guys who can come in and potentially play right away because they are older and more physically ready. Who are the two players I'm talking about? Well, I'm glad you asked. They are both from Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. The two players are, the first one, Rayshawn Reynolds. He's 6'3", listed at 187 pounds. Last season at Hutchinson Community College, he had 15 tackles, 1 interception, and 5 pass breakups. He had several offers from teams all over the country, primarily G6 schools. However, West Virginia must see something in this young man, and I do too. When you put on his tape, obviously the first thing that sticks out is his length. 6'3". He has a length to be able to, track down balls in the air. He has the athleticism to cover guys one-on-one, also to cover guys or to cover players in a zone defense. So he can play man or zone. Again, he's athletic, he's fast, and he's long. He's going to give West Virginia something they have lacked at the defensive back position a lot over the last few years, and that is someone with size who can cover these tall 6'4", 6'5" receivers in the Big 12. West Virginia has struggled with that a lot over the past several years. Well, this is a player who can help with that. 24/7 Sports has him as the number 15 ranked defensive back in all of the junior college ranks. So he is a talented player. I really like this young man. Now, his teammate, and by the way, he has, best I can tell, depending on how these court cases go and whatnot, he should have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Now, it's possible he could end up getting more, again, depending on how some of these court cases go that are challenging, eligibility from JUCO players. Some of those cases are still ongoing. The second player that committed, which is his teammate, and these two players committed about an hour or within about an hour of each other, but it's Damon Allen. I think it's Damon Allen. It's D-A-M-U-N. He's also, again, from Hutchinson Community College. Again, 6'3", about the same height. He's a little bigger, listed anywhere between 190 to 200, depending on what website you're looking at. He also has 2 years remaining, at least. Now, his stat line is a little better. 24 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 2 pass breakups. Obviously, the 4 picks and the 25 tackles are higher than his teammate, but I think they're both good players. And what I like about Damon Allen, well, first off, he's listed as the number 4 cornerback in the JUCO ranks according to 24/7 Sports. So he's a top 5 JUCO corner. You obviously like that. And by the way, they were both 3-star recruits. But he's really also good in man coverage. He actually excels, in my opinion, after watching his tape, he excels in press man coverage. He's really strong. When he puts his hand on a receiver, that receiver usually gets bumped off their route. Multiple times in his highlights, you saw him doing a really good job of using the sideline as an extra defender and actually bumping his man all the way out of bounds. If they're lined up on the boundary side, did a really good job of bumping his guy out of bounds, which obviously what's that do? It makes him ineligible to come back in and catch football, right? That's what I love about this young man. So he should be really good at the point of attack, what I call bump and run coverage, getting his hands on guys, knocking them off their route, which obviously helps you. If you do knock them off their route a little bit, even if you don't knock them out of bounds, it obviously takes them an extra second or two to run that route. which gives your defensive front a little bit extra time to get to the quarterback, and also makes it easier for you to cover that defensive back wherever he may be going. And it could just completely bump him off his route to the point where he's not even a target anymore for that quarterback, and he has to start looking at options B or C in his route tree, right? So, or in his route progression. Now, both of these players are really good at tackling. They can both come up and hit you. They're both physical. Obviously, with Allen being a little bigger, he's a little more physical, in my opinion, a little stronger. I think his size helps with that a little bit. Again, not a huge size difference, but a few pounds is a few pounds. And I have confidence that West Virginia's nutrition program, weight training program will put even more weight on these two young men. Allen had more opportunities, at least in his highlights, because of, obviously I said he had 4 interceptions. There were more opportunities, at least in the highlights I watched, for him to play the ball in the air. He did a really good job of doing that. He can come down with 50-50 balls. What I saw about Allen that I really liked as well is his instincts. He seems to really know, I don't know if it's from studying the playbook, just his natural football IQ, whatever, but some of the highlights you watch, you see that he almost knows where the quarterback's going to go with the football instinctively. Even one particular play, the receiver was running basically a fade route, yet Allen saw that the quarterback was trying to throw the ball underneath. It looked like there may have been a miscommunication between the receiver and the quarterback. Maybe the receiver ran the wrong route. He saw that, stopped, come back for the football, made the catch for an interception. So he did a really good job of analyzing where the quarterback's eyes were and dissecting that play and making the interception and taking advantage of what appeared to be a miscommunication between the quarterback and the receiver. So I really like these two pickups. I love them both. I feel like Allen had the better tape, but it's always good to get 2 6'3" athletic defensive backs, and they both have a shot to come in and play right away because they're already 20, 21-year-old young men, more physically ready than a lot of these high school guys. Still may take them a few games to adjust to the P4 level, but it's my understanding that both of these will be January enrollees, which means they will be able to go through spring ball. Looks to me like West Virginia is making it a point to get a lot of players who can come in January. I would say a good 75-80% of their recruiting class, I don't know the exact number, but probably 75-80% of their class will come in January and be able to go through a full spring. This past year, it was the opposite. They had 30-some players, and this was out of the transfer portal, that they didn't bring in until fall camp. And some of those guys got significant snaps. That puts you at a huge disadvantage because you're several games into the season before they're familiar with your system, before they're familiar with your culture, before they're familiar, with your play calls, your schemes, whatever. But by coming in January, they'll have more guys ready to play by the time game 1 rolls around. And I like that, whether they're a freshman or a JUCO or a transfer or whatever. Doesn't matter. But I like these two additions, especially Damon Allen. I think he could end up being a very, very good player for the Mountaineers this year and even in 2027 if he stays around long enough. Now, second half of the show, I'm going to give you a little bit of takeaways or a few of my thoughts on West Virginia's men's basketball win over Mercyhurst on Monday night. Before I do that, though, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor here, or one of our sponsors, the fine folks over at Appalachia Digital. I want to thank them for their support here on the show and what they're doing for us over at WV Sports Chat. If you want to check out their work, go to AppalachiaDigital.com, use /Couz, let them know I sent you. But if you need a brand new website designed, if you want to level up your current website, or you want them to help you get found easier on Google, they can do all of that for you. Again, go to AppalachiaDigital.com /Couz, let them know I sent you. Check them out today. And go check out WV Sports Chat. You'll see how good of a job they did over at that site. And by the way, you're there, check out some of our articles. I just did an article covering both of these young men that committed. If you want to go check it out. Also articles by Jonathan Martin, Shauna Rose, James Gravely, and some others. So go check it out, WVSportsChat.com for your written content. And it is not behind a paywall. So check it out. Now let's talk a little bit about this West Virginia men's basketball team and what they were able to do against Mercyhurst this past Monday night. Not a lot of takeaways here because with all due respect to Mercyhurst, it's Mercyhurst. West Virginia walks away with a 32-point win, 70-38. Now, I don't care what level of basketball you're on. If you hold a team to 38 points, that's great defense. Okay. In college basketball, doesn't matter if it's a low major or mid major, doesn't matter. 38 points is remarkable. As a matter of fact, that now puts West Virginia as number one in the country in opponent points per game scored as far as a defensive stat. That's pretty remarkable. Now, conversely, when you look at their net rankings, which came out for the first time today, they're 101st in the net, which is not good. Now, that can be explained for a couple of different reasons. A, West Virginia has not really beaten any good basketball teams yet. Even Pitt, even though that was a big win because of the rivalry and the blowout, Pitt is not a good basketball team. They're just not. They even lost to Quinnipiac. All the other teams they've beaten have been low majors. The two opportunities they had to get quad one or even quad two wins, they failed against Xavier and Clemson. So right now they don't have any quality wins. So that puts them at 101st in the net. Now they have a lot of opportunities to improve that with games coming up against Wake Forest, Ohio State, and of course, Big 12 conference play. So with all that being said, let's talk about last night. The defense was really good. Coach Hodge described it as connected. They were well connected. At least I've heard other people describe it that way. He said they communicated much better last night for the most part, especially, in ball screen defense. They did a better job communicating, which is something they had struggled with at times in previous games, especially in those Clemson and Xavier games. They were not doing a very good job defending ball screens, and they were giving up too many open looks. Now, they did that they had a little bit of a lapse last night, late second half, but they were able to clean up in the second half and improve that. We saw some really good individual performances. Most notably, you had Jackson Fields in for his first game as a Mountaineer, his first, game. Well, actually his first game overall, because he didn't get to play in the scrimmages either because of his injury. So he played his first game. So it was really the first time that Ross Hodge has had his full complement of players on the floor together. He talked about in his post-game press conference how, with Fields being out, with obviously Chance Moore missing 5 games because of his eligibility thing with the NCAA, Amir Jenkins missed practice time in the summer. Harlan Obioha missed practice time in the summer. So he really had never had his full complement of players. Well, last night he finally did. So it's giving him an opportunity to now coach his entire squad. He'll be able to get a feel for what 5 guys play the best together, what combinations does he need to put out there, what players are best at what positions. He put Jasper Floyd and Amir Jenkins on the floor together for longer periods of time last night. So just a lot of different things he's learning himself as he goes through the season. So by the time they get into Big 12 play here in about a month, he will have a much better idea of what his players are good at, what lineups work well together, and what he can do to win basketball games. So I still feel really confident, despite those 2 losses in the Charles Classic. I still feel really confident about this team going forward, and I look for them for that net ranking of 101 to improve over the course of the season. I'm still not predicting this to be a March Madness team. I just think it's too early. He needs at least 1 year to get more of his recruits in, to transfer, or transfers in the types of guys he wants, whatever the case may be. I love the way they play with effort, but I just think he's going to need at least 1 more year to really get this where he wants it. We're seeing that in the recruiting successes he's having with people like Miles Sadler, Kingston Whitty, Aliou Dioum, and others. But that being said, let's take a look at last night's game and some individual performances. Amir Jenkins really stood out to me last night. I think, my personal opinion, he's playing as well, if not better, than Jasper Floyd overall right now. He had 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and again, 0 turnovers. When your freshman point guard can play 23 minutes with no turnovers, and I think this is like 3 games in a row now, he's not turned it over once. That's impressive. He gives you a different gear as far as driving the ball to the rim. Jasper Floyd's more of a, I don't know how to describe it, physical type player, where Amir Jenkins gives you a little bit more quickness, a little bit more juice, I'll call it, off the dribble and getting the ball to the basket. Matthews even compared him to Deuce McBride a little bit. Huge compliment there. A guy who's killing it right now in the NBA for the New York Knicks. That's a huge compliment to Amir Jenkins. He's playing really good basketball right now. Would I start him over Jasper Floyd? Not necessarily. I think his role coming off the bench right now is fitting him really well. Let's go ahead and talk about Jackson Fields in his debut. 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 or 4 from the free throw line. Showed some great athleticism. It was a goal 10, but he went up and blocked a shot Ended up being a goaltend, but he looked really good. He showed his athleticism, shows what he's capable of. He's going to give them another presence around the rim on defense, another presence when it comes to rebounding the basketball, and someone else who can score the basketball around the rim, which is something they have struggled with so far this season. Chance Moore was the leading scorer, was 1 rebound away from a double-double, had 11 points, 9 rebounds, and only his 3rd game with the Mountaineers. He's still continuing to get comfortable out there as well. Great things are ahead for him, I still think. Facing Eagle staff, still only scored 9 points, but he still looked more comfortable than he had in some previous games with the ball in his hands. He was more aggressive, driving the ball to the rim at times. He was, less hesitant to take shots when he had them. And he also showed us some great things, pulling down 8 rebounds and did a really good job playing defense on the defensive end of the floor, staying in front of his man, getting deflections, other things that help this team out. And he's just a great teammate. And I like what he's bringing to this team. And his scoring is going to come. Just give it time. It's going to get there. He had 20 the last game, so it's going to come. Honor Huff had 6 points. Jasper Floyd had 5 points and 4 assists. Brendan Lorient, 9 points, 5 rebounds, another solid outing for him. Now, as a team, you want to see their free throw shooting improve. They still only shot 65% from the free throw line. 3-point shooting was, left much to be desired, only shooting 28% on 5 of 18. But overall, they shot the ball 47%. Some of that was because they had a major size advantage underneath. They also had, points in the paint advantage, 36-16. Some of that was from driving it with Amir, Jenkins, and Jasper Floyd and others. And some of it, again, was their size advantage with Lorient, Obioha, and others. And then you've got, they had 3 blocks, 6 fast break points. They had 16 second chance points, West Virginia did. They out-rebounded Mercyhurst 44-27. They forced 15 turnovers and had 24 points off of those forced turnovers. So that when they turn it over, they're getting points off of most of those, and that's important. Just an overall well-played game for the most part for West Virginia. They were doing a better job communicating. Ross Hodge talked about in his post-game presser on the defensive end, that is, when it comes to, especially on ball screen defense and whatnot, which is something they had struggled with. So hopefully that's improving. But we'll get a really good feel. They have Coppin State coming up later this week, but we'll get a really good feel when they play Wake Forest in Charleston, West Virginia, inside the Charleston Coliseum. I think they've named it something different now, but I'll always call it the Charleston Coliseum. When they play Wake Forest in the Charleston Coliseum this coming Saturday night, I think we'll get a better feel for how well this team is gelling together now with all their full complement of players back on the court. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond and play against another Power 4 or high major opponent this weekend. All right, let me know what you think about this team and their win over Mercyhurst in the comments. Also, let me know your thoughts on, West Virginia's 2 big football commits, what you think about those guys and how well you think they're going to help this football team. Also, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe below. Both of those things are absolutely free to do. Don't forget to share this with your family and friends who like WVU Mountaineer sports. There's also a hype button for those of you watching on your mobile device. There's a hype button between the download button and the thanks button below is one called hype. Look for that. Please hit it. It also helps the algorithm. Shows YouTube that you like my content and you want more people to see it. Last but not least, if you're listening to this on podcast platforms, please leave me a 5-star review. Please follow me over there. That also helps on the podcast side. I really appreciate you tuning into this episode. Hope the rest of your day is top shelf. God bless you. And cue Country Roads.